in downtown Largo. Their menu offers out dinners like delicious ribs, chicken, beef, and pork, or sit-down barbecue dinners, sandwiches, and they will also cater your party. Everything is barbecued fresh using real oak for that great smoky flavor. So visit my friend Corey at Barbecue in downtown Largo, West Bay Drive, or call them for a takeout order at 727-501-9090. That's 727-501-9090. They truly have the best smoking barbecue in town. Oh, and be sure and check out their great barbecue sauce. That's the Rib Shack Barbecue in downtown Largo, 727-501-9090. I'm telling 1 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-17 Minute Value Report. Call 727-541-17.
Bronco, Ford Bronco, first four-wheel drive sports car, blazing a new trail of excitement. The new Ford Bronco for 1966, a rough, tough, go anywhere, climb anything sports car. Choice of powerful 6 or big new 200 horsepower V8 engine. Clear out snow in four-wheel drive. Cruise down a road in 2. Two-wheel drive without annoying whine. Smooth as silk on paved roads. Ford's new Bronco gives you synchronized shifting, velvet smooth coil spring drive. Bronco Roadster, built for fun. Bronco Sports Utility, a do-anything workhorse. Bronco Wagon, family carry-all. Name of Bronco, a new V8 Bronco at your Ford dealer.
Okay, here's our four-wheeling rally. Over these tough dirt trails, then enter Mount Rushmore Park and get up close to those presidents.
Ford Bronco, a complete four-wheeler. Family-sized comfort. Big Cube 351 V8 standard. Front quad shock option. Drive with optional automatic.
Did you get close to Mount Rushmore?
This close enough for you?
The Ford Bronco. Compare it with any four-wheeler anywhere.
This country has a strange relationship with the wild. As much as we talk about it and paint paintings of it and sing songs about how we're destined to be it, we seem to spend every waking hour in places that keep us away from it. So to get back to the wild, we need something built for it. Something that acts like it's been out here before, because it has. Introducing the return of a legend. The all-new Bronco two-door, the first ever Bronco four-door, and the adventure-ready Bronco Sport. Built to get you to all those places you normally only see in nature documentaries. Built for capability, for adventure, for enjoying the open air, on the open road, in the parts of the world without posted speed limits. Because if something is going to be called a Bronco, you need something that can look adventure in the eye and give it a firm handshake. Something built with the toughness of an F-Series and the spirit of a Mustang. It better be able to live up to that name. Meet the future of off-roading. The all-new Bronco family.
I'm a Ford truck man. That's all I drive.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
My sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Hi, this is Etzel Ford with the Ford Motor Company. You're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Enjoy the show.
Okay, listeners, welcome. You're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computers and Google TAN-Talk1340.com, and you can see us live here in the studios in downtown Clearwater. Don't forget to check out our website, GulfstreamMotorsports.com, where you can find out all about us. And if you miss any of our past shows, don't forget to check out our archive page, or just simply Google Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Good evening, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Pretty good. Mr. COVID-protected show producer Tommy behind the glass wall there. How you doing, buddy?
Just stay back. You're 6 feet, and I'll be fine.
Okay. Well, I think we're probably, when we figure this out, we figured
we're
about 12 feet?
15.
Yeah.
15 feet? Okay, good. So that means if I breathe in that direction, it's going to just kind of like bounce back off the glass
And
and
go
come
back
over
to the air
Gonna hit
conditioning.
Bobby.
and it'll be
And go in the air conditioning and then go in his room.
Yeah. Well, up until
Anyway.
today, I was doing pretty good. I wasn't. I escaped having to wear a mask, and today I was over at a friend of mine's museum over in Tampa, checking out all the Porsches he's got over there. And they told me I had to wear a mask, and I was debating. This is how you're like, okay, if I'm walking into a store, I don't have to really go there, but I really wanted to see those Porsches and some of the race cars and the '68 Shelby GT500 KR that was lurking in the back of the museum, along with numerous Porsches. So I did. I succumbed to a mask for about 11 seconds, however long it took me to walk from one door to the other door. And then, of course, when I walked in there, nobody was wearing a mask. No, I wasn't wearing a mask. So the jury's still out of it. We have mixed emotions about this, obviously. But anyway, nonetheless, wear a mask just to be on the safe side. It never hurts to just be overly cautious.
Especially here in Pinellas and Hillsborough.
Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Pasco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Pasco. I actually walked into a racetrack the other day or last week. And
yeah, that was anyway. But
Yeah.
FLA,
go ahead.
FLAcarshows.com. Make sure you there's a favorite event spot I saw today that you can dream about the events that you'd like to be going to, and you can save them to your favorite events and own car show list ready to go. That's a
Okay.
cool feature.
Right. Well, anyway, like I said, people still out there driving the cars. I bump into people all the time. I always hear stories about, guys driving down the road in his old classic car, and people just go thumbs up. It's really cool to have a late model exotic car. That is kind of cool if you got a Porsche, Ferrari, or something like that. But when you're driving a vintage car, I don't know, something about it just hits a nerve, and people just go, wow. And I was reading an article today, and it said, and I'm not saying this because I'm partial to Fords, which I am, but in this particular case, it's true. Haggerty came out with a storyline, a narrative that said that the 1965 and 1966 Mustang is the all-time most popular classic car. And that's probably the most classic or most collectible and most sought-after car because of a number of reasons. One, it's true Americana, more so than any other car other than maybe a Model T. And it's affordable, it's fun, it's reliable, it's easy to fix, and the parts network, even right here in Ocala, just a couple hours up the road off 75, our good friends up at National Parts Depot. So a shameless plug for our good friends at NPD, Ricky and those guys. But at any rate, you can buy anything and everything you want. I have a couple Mustang project cars for sale, and they're both, one's a 65 convertible, 4-speed, 289 car, and the other one's a 67, 289 4-barrel 4-speed car. 4-speed cars, like I've said before, are always a 25% or more premium. Okay, factory 4-speed cars. Even if you convert the car from an automatic to a stick, you're going to be money ahead. Okay, and nowadays, with all the trick stuff that you got out there, you can drop a Coyote motor in there for $5,000. So do you buy a 302, a 427, or something like that, or you drop a Coyote in there with a 6 or a 7-speed and a 6-speed rather? I mean, I think there's a transmission company out there that makes a 7-speed now. In fact, Bobby, weren't we just reading that the new Bronco comes with an optional 7-speed transmission?
Yes, manual. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the new Bronco made its video debut yesterday, I guess, on the 13th. Is that what it was, Bobby?
Where they did the reveal in the via live stream.
Okay. Well, that's one of the reasons why we played the clips, the 66 factory Ford commercial, the 78 Ford factory commercial, and the 2021. Now, I happen to own a 1979 Ford Bronco that I bought new at Bill Curry Ford in Tampa. Back in the day, I went to Walker Ford. I went to Chick Smith Ford, who was downtown Clearwater, just a little bit south of Clearwater. That was his old ad, but then he moved downtown. And I think there was one other Ford dealership, but Bill Curry happened to have what I wanted. Everybody around here had a black with red interior. I wanted a triple black. So I got a triple black XLT, and I've had it ever since 1979. Actually, they dealer traded it from another dealer and brought it down from Alabama. So it's an Alabama truck. But anyway, it's still all original. In fact, Bobby got his driver's license in that vehicle. So it's kind of like his little baby now. But it's fairly original, all original sheet metal. Even the interior is original, except for I just in the process of replacing the carpeting on it and the driver's seat upholstery, which took forever. And there was a company out in Washington State, because in '79 they actually had a optional captain's chair with a folding armrests option. You came with low back bucket seats or high back bucket seat captain chair. For some reason, a lot of people didn't order that option. Mine happened to have it. And mine has tilt cruise control. I have tinted windows, air conditioning. It came with 350s in it, roughly 354s, 350s. I converted it over to, mine might have 411s in it. And then I'm running 1250s on it, 1250 15s. And on Western wheels, which have been on the truck since 1979. In fact, what was interesting is when I bought the vehicle, and this is really cool. See, back in the day, you can actually order everything a la carte. And so you could order options and you delete options. It's not like today. Today, everything comes in packages. Back then, you just went down a checklist. I recall that very vividly because when I went in there, for example, in 1972 to order a 1972 Ford Ranchero GT with a Boss 429, I checked everything and it said 429, but it didn't say B9, Boss 9, or wasn't the big motor. It was 72. It was still a smog motor already, and you could get the optional 351 Cobra Jet, 302, a 6-cylinder even. 351 2-barrel, 351 4-barrel, Cobra Jet, like I said, and a 429 4-barrel motor, but it wasn't a big motor. But at any rate, that never happened. I did end up with the car, which I still have, obviously, since high school, which I talk about from time to time. And it ran with 514 gears and a 13-to-1 Boss 351 motor. It ran like 1270s on the street. So that was pretty quick back in the day. But think about the 514 gears. But anyway, so on my Bronco, it's a fairly original piece, and kind of glad I still have it. It's kind of neat. But at any rate, so they're coming out with a new Bronco, and I think it's going to appeal to the younger generation. I mean, it's a name, it's a brand, and then these retro style that they came out with on a new Bronco. And you don't really know much about it yet because I haven't seen one yet, but I've read a little bit about it. Looks very much true to the original 1966 Ford Bronco. And what's interesting is even a lot of the detail, the fenders, the shape of the fenders, the bump on the hood. And there was a name for the ones that didn't have the doors. I forget what they call that because it was an option. Actually, what it was you took the door out and had a fiberglass insert that went in there. I don't know what the new ones are going to have, but it's just a cool little piece, and it comes in a 2-door and a 4-door version, which is kind of neat. So it's going to go after the Jeep market, but it's all Ford. And I will have to say this, Ford, even with the Mustang, now they're bringing out the Mach 1 in 2021. And the graphics, the look, the style, the marketing, the whole 9 yards. I mean, the Mach 1's a Mach 1. And the Mach 1 really back in '69 when it first came out was kind of the car that sealed the fate to Shelby's because Shelby's was kind of in that same market. The Mach 1 was expensive. It was a really pricey deluxe, luxed out, Mustang. And Shelby was, a Mustang on steroids taken to the next level. But it had all the, but it wasn't Carroll Shelby. It was Ford because in 68, Shelby sold out to Ford and Ford took over. And but at any rate, but the Bronco looks very much true to its original form, just like the Mustang today looks very familiar and has that sleek look. If you look at a 65, 66 Mustang Fastback or a Shelby, it just has that kind of look. So it's got really great line. And it's not a cumbersome looking car. Unlike, you look at the Camaro, which is bulky. And if you look at the Challenger, it is also bulky. I don't know if you guys have sat in those cars, but when you sit in those cars, it's like you're sitting in a van. I mean, it just like, boop, you just disappear in there. I mean, the door sills, the windowsill is right up to your shoulder. You shouldn't be there. It should be below your shoulder, maybe a couple inches, so you can hang your arm out or whatever. But the Mustang, they did a really good job. It's lean. Bobby, your thoughts on this? Because you're a 23-year-old kid and you like cars, and you're going to be the future buyer of a Mustang and a Bronco and who knows what else.
Well, that 2-door is going to be very, very appealing. The 4-door is going to be a family vehicle, things like that. It's going to camping. It's going to be the go-to SUV. That's for sure. As for the 2-door, that's going to be appealing to those who love the outdoors and maybe don't love the outdoors just as much, but they just because of the looks of it, the design is just so appealing to a wide variety of people of my age and not my age, Yeah,
well, like in the original '66 commercial, it called it the 4x4 sports car. That's what it was. 4x4 sports car, 4-wheel drive sports car. So it pretty much was. And it has a sporty look. On that note, I think Tommy's going to go ahead and fire up the stereo because we got a little, how about a little Alan Jackson since we're on a Southern thing? And both Alan Jackson and Toby Keith did that little thing about the Ford truck man. Alan Jackson's also a Ford guy and a really avid car collector. And here's a little Alan Jackson, and the song's called Drive.
Secondhand from a dealer in Atlanta. I rode up with Daddy when he went there to get it. Put on a shine, put on a motor, built out of love, made for the water. Ran her for years till the transom got rotten. A piece of my childhood that'll never be forgotten. It was just an old plywood boat, the 75 Johnson with electric choke. A young boy, 2 hands on the wheel. I can't replace the way it made me feel. And I would turn her sharp knife, make it whine. He'd say, you can't beat the way an old wood boat rides. Just a little late across the Alabama line, but I was king of the ocean when Daddy let me drive. Just an old half-ton short bed Ford my uncle bought new in '64. Daddy got it right cause the engine was smoking, couple of burnt valves and he had it going. He'd let me drive her, we'd haul off a load down a dirt strip where we'd dump trash off of a thick tin road. I'd sit up in the seat and stretch my feet out to the pedals, smiling like a hero that just received his medal. It was just an old hand-me-down Ford with 3-speed on the column and a dent in the door. A young boy, 2 hands on the wheel. I can't replace the way it made me feel. And I would press that clutch and I'd keep it right. And he'd say, a little slower, son, you're doing just fine. Just a dirt road with trash on each side, but I was merry and ready when Daddy let me drive.
Come enjoy the best brews in Tampa Bay at Dunedin Brewery. Known as Florida's oldest microbrewery, they are always working to create a unique variety of craft beers for every taste. In addition, Dunedin Brewery features a full menu, including everything from their famous wings, burgers, salads, flatbreads, and more. Don't forget about their live music, including the Wednesday Night Players Jam. That's Dunedin Brewery, 937 Douglas Avenue in downtown Dunedin. Visit them online at dunedinbrewery.com. Looking for car shows? Then look no further than FLAcarshows.com. On your computer or on your mobile device, FLAcarshows.com is a comprehensive list of automotive events, plus videos and news articles. Whether you're looking for car shows, cruise-ins, meetups, automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at FLAcarshows.com.
Okay, we're back and tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and we're just talking about the new Bronco, which, that was the other thing the article said regarding Broncos is that, the website crashed or something like that, and because people are trying to place orders? What's going on there, Bobby?
Okay, yes. So they're taking, I guess it's $100 you can reserve it right now on Ford.com, but they made a special website, FordBronco.com, just specifically for the launch. And I guess that's where you take your reservations. And sure enough, we have not confirmed this here yet at Nostalgic Radio and Cars, but I have read that the site did crash this afternoon because it's couldn't handle the amount of interest and reservations that are coming through. So
that's cool.
We'll see what happens.
Which goes back to the thing I was telling you earlier. It's like, I'm fortunate. I was in the cars. My dad wasn't, but all my dad's friends were in the cars. Oddly enough. my dad was PhD educated, so he was an academic, and I was basically in his eyes just a little grease monkey, which I did okay for a grease monkey, I guess, But at any rate, my son,
you got a radio show.
yeah, we got a radio show. Anyway, my son actually took an interest in this stuff. Now, he's been driving since he was, or I actually had him on motorcycles when he was 5, a little Honda Mini Trail, and then had him driving cars when he was 10.
12.
So 12. Okay. So time flies. 2 years, 1 year. But anyway, so that was pretty cool. And his first car that he ever drove was an old vintage Porsche, but it was a stick. The first vehicle he ever drove was what? The Excursion, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was automatic. And then I think he drove the rollback and moved it around a little bit.
That was the first one on a highway, which would have been US 19.
US 19. Wait a minute. How old were you when you were operating heavy equipment? We borrowed a friend of mine's loader, and I was trimming trees.
14, I want to say.
We were 14 when we were doing that? Okay.
Yeah, maybe close to a learner's license.
Okay. So anyway, so here he is operating a big, that was equivalent to a Cat 930 or something like
40,
that,
yeah.
or Deere 644 John Deere, and it was a Komatsu or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. So he was raising me up in the bucket, and I was up there trimming trees. So in our shop back in the day. A lot of fun. Okay, we got a real special guest for you coming on, and we got a storyteller coming on. We always love to hear good stories, and we like somebody that writes a lot because, people get out and they experience stuff just like I do. I go out there and I look at. I just got approached with here is to go take a look at a 2012 Ferrari California Spider. Okay, that's kind of a really cool kind of car. It's automatic, and but it's got the retractable hardtop, and it's kind of like a modern day Ferrari with kind of like old California flair. In fact, back in the old days, how the California thing started is because they did Spiders back in the late 50s, and the Spider is an Italian convertible. Okay, Barchetta is a small convertible open car, and then Spider is a 4-seater open car, and but because the California market was extremely strong, and that's the majority of the cars were sold, and obviously in the LA area, with all the big money celebrities and stuff like that. So they nicknamed the Ferraris, the early 250s, they were called California Spiders. Well, since we're into this throwback and this retro thing, which is now appealing to the young kids, and where I was going with this is, I'm an older guy. My son was influenced by it. Hopefully his kids will be influenced. And this is how we get these younger people into carrying the torch and retaining the interest and proliferating the interest in these older cars. Well, another way to do it is by branding, okay, and about retro names. So the Ferrari California is a throwback to the original California Spiders. And the Spider that they came out with when they came out with the California Ferrari, or the Ferrari California, is kind of like a tribute to the original late 50s, early 60s California Spider, which today, by the way, I might add, are pulling closer to 15 or selling for between $15 and $20 million. Extremely sought after cars. And we used to go to the Cavallino down there at West Palm Beach at the Breakers. And a couple of Spiders would show up there from time to time. If you go to Amelia Island, you'll always see a California Spider or two. If you go to Scottsdale, you'll see a Spider or two. And obviously, if you go to Monterey, which sadly, all these events have been postponed, but you'll see California Spiders. Anyway, that's my take on that right now. And I think what Tommy's going to do is fire up that stereo one more time, and then we're going to go ahead and get our guests on the phone.
Might talk some Broncos again.
And we might talk some Broncos again, because this gentleman is a automotive journalist, and he's in the know. You're tuned into Nostalgia Getting Cars. Here's a little Blackfoot. And let's see, this is I made a left turn and a red light, right, Tommy? Okay, and we had Ricky Medlock on our show here not too long ago. So shout out to Ricky Medlock and Len Skinner. Hey, you're tuned into Nostalgia Getting Cars. Don't touch that dial. We got some rock and roll and some good stories coming for you.
Never see the away faces of the people that will never come home. And when I stare into the mirror, mama, see myself all alone. Oh, and did you ever stop to wonder by the time that you lay by your side? When you know I was right, and you finally realized you took a left turn down the red sunshine down on the desert, and it seems to make me laugh. And I dream of my childhood sweetheart, and the freedom that I had in those days. Through this boxcar always bring my lonely home again. Well, I don't know where I am, and I really don't give a damn. This crazy life of mine will soon be gone. Oh, and then you ever stop the wonder.
You ready?
I'm ready. I was born ready, baby.
Blast off.
Bull and Harley, two throttle jockeys pushing the hottest heap on rubber.
All right.
What'd we turn?
Just 8.7 1/4, that's all.
Then two things happen. Macon County
Freeze!
and Janelle.
You get up the skinny or eat the big apple.
Will you look at that?
To cross the Macon County line once is wild. To cross it twice is insane. All they wanted to do was to get to California.
God, we got cops chasing us. Hell, we got everybody chasing us. It's that crazy cop. All right, get the deck.
Return to Macon County, rated PG.
Hey, I'm Christy Lee from All Girls Garage and Barrett Jackson on Velocity, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, we're back, and you're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Thank you, Christy. Lovely, lovely, lovely lady. Anyway, okay, it's time to introduce our special guest for the evening. We're on this Southern rock and roll thing, and we got our friend Scooby-Doo here with us. But the gentleman that's coming on the show is a pretty, what's the word? Accomplished freelance writer and automotive journalist, and he's written for probably the majority of the publications that we've used to read, and some of them that we still read. He's also a ghost writer. I'm delighted to welcome to the show this evening, J.P. Emerson. J.P., how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, guys. How are you?
Well, let's see. Fortunately, you're close by. You're in the same time zone. You're in Tampa. You're not even 30 miles away, are you?
Yep, a little bit further than that, but not by much.
Not by much. So, give us a little background on yourself, J.P.
Well, I'm a freelance journalist and author. I do, as you mentioned, write for most of the major automotive magazines. I also supply content for websites, supply content for various television sites, do quite a bit of ghost writing, which if you're not familiar with is essentially writing the words and someone else posts that information. And I write a series called Power Profiles, which is fairly popular. And it involves everyone from your neighbor with the cool car to the celebrities you see on television.
Interesting. Now, you also did we had Christy Lee's promo there for us. Now, you did an interview with Christy Lee, right?
Yes, I did. I did, about two months ago, I suppose.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that is for our 2020 Power Profile series, which is yet to be released. But, yep, she's an absolute hoot to talk to. Super funny, very down to earth. What you see on TV is exactly what you get with Christy. She's definitely an accomplished individual.
Who are some of the other celebrities that you've done some profiles with?
Ann Anstead from Wheeler Dealers. I just completed one with Adrian AJ Janik from Overhauling.
Uh-huh.
I've got Dave Kindig from Bitch and Ride, Kindig Design. Ken Lingenfelter, your Corvette guy. You obviously know the name Ken Lingenfelter.
Oh, yes.
Heather Storm from, she was on Garage Squad before Christy Lee went to Garage Squad.
Uh-huh.
Also did work for the Garage Squad crew itself. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. Some of them haven't come out yet, so we're going to hold those tight to the vest.
Okay. Tell us about ghostwriting. Now, the term, I mean, it's out there. I mean, you hear a lot of it. So basically, when you're ghostwriting, are you sitting down with the person that you're going to be writing for or with, and you kind of discuss things, and then basically you do all the writing, and then, of course, they kind of proof it, and then it gets published from there on, and then they get basically all the accolades for it? Is that how that kind of works?
Well, it could be that. Usually the ghostwriting is, here's here's a story or here's information that's going to be informational to your website or to your page or your magazine. Here's what's going on. I'll use like a Mustang website or forum. This is what they're talking about right now. This is what's really of interest to them. And I'll write an article or a story or an informational piece. And many times, you may be familiar, you'll see something on a website or in a magazine that rather than having a name by the byline, it'll say this staff, hot rod staff, or whoever it may be. It won't have a name of the individual that wrote it. Essentially, it's writing the story, and my name doesn't appear on it.
Okay. Your website. Go ahead and give out your website real quick so people can find you.
Website is jpemerson.com. Nice and easy, just like the name.
Okay, now there's some stories on there on your website, and I wanted to bring this one up particularly because I found this one kind of interesting. Because our show is a human interest show, and your website, your writing, a lot of the stuff that you do, a lot of your journalism is also human interest oriented. So there was a story on there about a quadriplegic that had I think it's a 68 to 69, so 67, 68, 69 Dart GT, kind of a retro throwback kind of car that he built up. Tell us a little bit about the story, because I thought it was really, really cool, because here's an example of someone that's pretty much gone through some really, really hard times in terms of physical disabilities, but yet he was able to overcome it. And then and with that, he's kind of like, sending a positive message out to other people like that to, how to overcome it and how to deal with it. So share that story with us, because I thought that was kind of heartwarming.
Yeah, absolutely. That individual he's actually a local educator in the Tampa Bay area. He's been doing it for 30 plus years. And of course, he's a huge car nut, a major Mopar guy, that I hear from him quite a bit. And essentially his story is, just out of high school, here in Florida, he went to a buddy's house to go swimming right after graduation. And he suffered a catastrophic injury jumping into the swimming pool that left him a quadriplegic. He had some difficult years, as you may imagine, being a young man at that time, trying to find his way through life or his new life. He got into, at the urging of family and friends, he got into wheelchair racing to satisfy his need for speed. And from that, he thought, I was always a pretty good mechanic. Let's see what I can do. His dream at the time, he always wanted, I believe it was a Roadrunner. But of course, life gets in the way of that. And from that, he got into teaching. I believe he started as a social studies teacher. He got into technology Student Association of Florida, which is an outstanding public and private, I believe, technology club that they do here in the local schools. And through that, he was able to find himself the Dart, and he got his kids involved. And what he physically couldn't do, he was teaching his kids. They would come by and help him essentially build this car. And in my story, it really says, when you're walking through a car show, which is where you'll see him, he's at local cruise nights all over the Tampa Bay area. When you're walking through a car show, you have a tendency to walk past cars that maybe aren't perfect. They unless it really appeals to you, you kind of notice these door dings and funny pieces and things on this car. And it makes you question it, because you rarely see him buy the car. But when you realize that this is someone that hand fabricated all of these things that essentially drives with one hand, accelerate, brake, turn signal, shift, you name it, one hand. Then you kind of understand what it takes and what level of passion someone really has for the hobby. He's gone on to drag race it, and as he's getting on in age, he's come to the point where he says, my days of doing this are coming to an end, so I can teach tomorrow's generation how to do these things, and they really take to him because he's a real likable guy, and there's nothing he wouldn't do for the kids. This is the kind of educator that you want your kids to have.
It's a really cool story. And in fact, if you go to the website, it shows pictures of him doing burnouts and everything like that. And I had to look close because I generally when I look at a car, I always look at the license plate, and I saw a light blue tag on them going Florida, our Florida antique tags. So that's kind of prompted me to read the article through and through. And it's right. The car's not perfect. It's got some flaws, but it's a driver. But the fact that he manufactured, with his own, with his little network there, all the controls to be able to control that car, drive that car. It's automatic and everything like that. But to be able to get that car to drive, and him, in a wheelchair and being, quadriplegic or nearly totally, and to be able to drive that car, I thought that was a pretty interesting story. So that's one of the reasons what I wanted you to tell that story, because it's very inspirational, which basically says, just like you said, if somebody's passionate about something and has the will and the desire, and it comes from within, the soul, okay, the soul, the drive, the energy, you can achieve anything. Fair statement?
Absolutely. And that's definitely the message that he's giving the students at his school and everyone that comes in contact with him. You just won't meet a more positive individual, and that shows in everything that he does. And that's what really stood out to me. This is a story that needs to be told. You won't find his car on the cover of a major magazine, but his story should be on the cover of everyone's mind, because it's just that good.
Do you have other stories similar in significance? Maybe not surrounding someone necessarily, that's handicapped or anything like that, but another story where it shows some real true passion about what they do and their involvement in cars.
Well, I do. I majority of what I write are those types of stories, because everyone has a great story. Most people don't think that they do, or they feel a little embarrassed to share it, or don't think that their car is worthy. And I write stories not so much about the car per se. For my power profiles, the car is part of the story, but I want to talk to the owner. I want their story. I want to know what makes it special to them. And there's a couple that stand out to me. There was a young lady up in North Carolina. I got in contact with her about a year or so ago. Her name is Sydney Lett, and she's a singer-songwriter up in the Carolinas, and she's a huge Mustang fan. She sent me photos of her Mustang, and it's basically her baby. She's out making it on her own, writing songs and working with some of the biggest names, in the industry. I know she's worked with Blake Shelton and Diamond Rio and Leanne Rimes. I also know that she's got some new music coming out in the fall, and her love is two things. It's music and it's classic cars. And I'll throw in NASCAR as well, because she's very big on the NASCAR scene. In fact, she's got a song called "We Are NASCAR" that you just really need to hear. But to talk to someone, especially at that time, at her age, that's so passionate about it, she comes by it, through her family. She comes by it through her friends that says, this is something that I'm interested in. When other people are playing Xbox or on the computer or on the phone all the time, this was something that she was passionate about, and she's still passionate about. And it's refreshing to see those things, because that's what we need, the next generation. We need the next generation to be interested in these things, and all it takes is somebody to show it to them. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles of today's cars, but it's something that they can do themselves and take pride in. And that was one that really jumped out to me. You will definitely hear her name in the future because she's very talented and one of the people that you want to see succeed.
Now we were talking. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Okay. I mentioned earlier in the show that the Hagerty had just written an article saying that the 65, 66 Mustang is the most popular collectible car on the planet. I used to jokingly say you can take a Ford Mustang and you could drop it on the Himalayas and a Yeti would walk up to it and know exactly what it is and how to start the car and drive it off the mountain. And you're a Mustang guy too. So, being a car guy and you're an automotive journalist, does the car guy thing come first or does the journalism thing come first for you?
Well, the car guy gave birth to the journalism guy.
Okay. I like that. That's good. And
but you're right. You can see a Mustang anywhere. But don't get me wrong. I mean, I love them all. I cut my teeth on a Mustang. The Mustang was my first car, and that's what I learned on.
Uh-huh.
But I sure love many of the Mopars and the Chevys, and I mean, cool is cool, and that's what I always say. If it's cool, then I'm interested in it. I try not to get stuck on one particular brand because as a journalist, you just can't do that. You have to be interested in everything, and it's very easy to be, especially after you meet the people that own it, and you see that no matter what they like, they have the same interest that you do. Theirs may be to a different brand, but they're all saying the same thing.
Well, I always say this too, even on a show, there's a certain camaraderie in the car culture that doesn't really exist in a lot of music. I would say it does. Musical instruments guys, there's a camaraderie there. There's an understanding, and I think the same holds for true. It's not like there's a lot of competition. There is competition, but it's not like a malicious competition. It's kind of a friendly competition, just like you said. And even in racing, you see it too. I mean, I've seen guys at the racetrack, and one guy's, teams help other teams. A lot. So. Do you write commercials and articles for like branding and stuff like that too? I mean, is that in your wheelhouse?
Well, I haven't written any commercials for any brands, but I'd certainly be interested in talking to people about it.
Okay.
I certainly see quite a bit of questions. What do you think of this particular product, or what should I use here? Or what company do you suggest? And that could be a slippery slope. I can only speak through my own experience in what I'm telling people.
How do you go about finding a lot of the articles that you want, storylines that you want to write? I mean, do you read the news a lot and then you pick up ideas? You go to a lot of shows. I mean, where's your source kind of like come from? I mean, what's your well, so to speak, as they say?
Well, it's all of those things, actually. It's online. There's hundreds and hundreds of online clubs and forums. Pick a brand, pick a car, and you can find one. Of course, it's through social media. It's magazines. It's car shows. Car shows are a great place to get leads and a horrible place to do a story. You can't get good pictures at a car show. And then I always, when I speak with somebody or I work with them, I ask them, do you know anybody, that's got a cool car or a cool story, or share it with a friend and see if they're interested, because you never know where they lead. And that's where most of it comes from. It's just reaching out and talking to somebody, and not just being the car guy that wants to talk about the car. It's being JP that wants to talk to you.
Now, if somebody wants you to do a story on them, how does it work? I mean, is there a fee for doing this? I mean, when you send your articles out to, let's say, certain publications, do they pay you? How does it work in the automotive journalism world? I mean, because I'm sure there's some listeners out there that go, that sounds like something. I mean, I'm not a writer. If anything, I got a little bit of a gift of gab, but And even though I do appraisals and I do write and I have to do narratives all the time, for me to sit down, I don't have what they call in German, we say Sitzfleisch, which means sit pants. If you wanted to translate it, it's going to be, I can't sit still long enough to write stuff, but my mind wanders all over the place, and then I make notes here and there, but there are people, and I'm sure you're that way, that that are disciplined. I think that's the right word for it. They can actually sit there and take that thought and expound on it. So if people wanted to kind of make a career out of it, kind of like you do, how do they go about doing it? And can you make a living at it?
Well, you can certainly make a living at it, although it's gotten much harder in the last couple of months with all this COVID. As far as what does it cost? Well, if there's a company or a website or a magazine, there's a difference between an assignment, which comes at a cost, and somebody that says, "Hey, here's my story. I don't know whether you think it's worthy or not, or whatever they may say. What do you think?" There's no charge for that, because what that does is it allows me to talk to them and get their information, and then I can go and submit it to one of the publications that I'm doing work for and say, "Hey, I think this is something we ought to go with," and then of course they run it. So there's no charge at all for someone to submit something and share their story. I wouldn't want to pay for somebody to tell my story. I want them to be interested in what I have to say. So that's kind of the way I go, from a car guy perspective. You're telling me your story. You're not selling it to me. But that's kind of how I operate. But if there's a company or a website or somebody that wants me to do something, then yeah. I've got to do it. This is what I do.
Do you, where do you think the future of print is? Obviously we know the internet, social media is huge, is expanding ever so, but there's still a lot of us old schoolers that still like picking up a magazine and looking at it. I know when I go to Publix every once in a while, first thing I do is I grab a publication. Once in a while I go to a library, and then, but I still like looking at magazines. But you hear this thing, print is dead. Well, I don't think so, but share your thoughts on that.
I don't believe that it's dead. I believe it's severely diminished. There's a lot more that goes into it. When you go and you pick up a magazine for $5, $6, $7, $8 or whatever it may cost, it seems expensive. But there's a whole lot more that goes into it. There's advertising fees and printing cost and mailing and all of that. So it's a pretty expensive venture to be in, let alone paying the individuals that are actually working for the magazine or like myself, a freelancer submitting work. I do think that the internet is moving at light speed currently toward mostly digital. It really can't help but do it. I try to compare it to pictures. I say all the time, we used to be able to hold our pictures, and now they're on our phone. And when our phones die, they die with it. Fortunately, the internet, as they say, lives forever. But I do see it going in that direction. If you look at automotive shows on television, you can find plenty of them on some of the networks, but a large majority of them are on YouTube or pay-per-view. They're done with one or two people holding a camera. There's not much script. It's just what they're working on. It costs a lot less, and you get a lot more people watching it over and over and over. So that's the way I kind of compare the print right now. And that's the way I see it going.
Are you going to make more of a transition to the video side of things a little bit, or are you going to stay on the journalist side?
Oh, I think I have the face for radio, so I don't think I'll be doing any video.
Okay. Well, you can come sit in with it. I should have actually said, why don't you just, since you're in Tampa, I should have just had you come over and sit in it. But we can do that again. Next time, a couple of months down the road or something like that. If you're in the Clearwater area, we can do that because we're not going anywhere anytime soon. We've been here 10 years, so we're looking forward to another 10 years. But now we got a minute or two left. Is there something you want to say, something you want to share with everybody? A little, a minute or two story or something like that?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to give a shout out to a group over in Tampa that does some really great work. If I can call them by name,
sure.
They're the Old Fart Cruisers,
okay.
Tampa, and Lieutenant Colonel Chris Reynolds. Chris is a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel, the Dean of American Military University, and does work at UF and USF. They do travel all over. Chris is definitely somebody that you would want to talk to, especially being a Mustang guy. Again, if you look at my website, you'll find one. You'll see his car. It's all decked out in U.S. Air Force colors. In fact, the gas cap is a USAF logo. Chris is a great guy, and the group there is a great guy. And anytime that something comes up that I need something where I can tell them, hey, here's an individual that needs some help that's in your area, these guys are always first to jump in and lend a hand. So they're definitely worthy of a shout out here. That you probably have a great time talking to because they are a riot.
Sounds good. Well, JP, I want to thank you for coming on the show this evening. And as usual, always up against the clock here, But one more time, go ahead and give out your website so people can find it.
Is jpemerson.com, or you can reach me on Twitter at _JP Emerson.
Okay. Actually, we got another 2 or 3 seconds or 15 seconds. Are you working on any project cars yourself right at the moment?
I am not working on any project cars right now. I am happy to say that's behind me at the moment, and we'll see what the future brings.
All right. Well, if you decide you want a Mustang, you know who to call. Call the Mustang Buster. So, JP, thank you very much for coming on the show. Best of luck to you in the world of automotive journalism and your interviews and all the other good stuff. And we'll definitely keep in touch.
All right, guys. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank my very special guest here for the evening, JP Emerson, freelance automotive journalist and ghostwriter. So if you're not a good writer and you need a ghostwriter, this is a gentleman you want to call. In the meantime, I want to thank all my listeners for tuning into Nostalgic Getting Cars. Don't forget, every Tuesday night here on the Town Talk Radio Network for the most fascinating and legendary names, like it says on our banner. Bobby, you got something you want to say?
Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Follow us, Nostalgic Getting Cars and Gulfstream Motorsports.
And get out and drive your cars. Get out and drive cars, boats, motorcycles, everything. In the meantime, hey, thanks, Tommy. He's in there. Big thumbs up. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
Day to day, hour to hour, day straight, deep and wide. Bring on to the other side. Bring on to the other side. Bring on to, bring on to, bring on to, bring on to.
WTAN, Clearwater.
FM 106.1.
WDCF, Dade City.
FM 102.3.
WZHR, Zephyrhills.
FM 104.3.
Listen.